There we go. That should work now. Sorry about that.
Is it working now?
It should be.
Oh, Matt Frisha is our drummer is on. Can you still not hear?
There's probably a delay, and so
okay.
It looks like it's running now.
All right. He just turned it on. So it is running now, I think Dannon says. Okay, great.
We had our first vaccinated COVID scare last week. The 12-year-old was coughing and sniffling, and took him out of school, but then you rolled him through the drive-through nose test, right?
Yeah.
Stuck a thing up his nose, and he was fine. So
he was just sick of school is what he was sick of.
Well, that's the thing, is just being sick again. That's another thing that, I have not missed.
You're sick. You've been sick all week. How do you get sick wearing a freaking mask?
Exactly.
Like
well,
you
because
go to school for teach 3 classes, and then you're gonna with the mask on, and you get sick.
Yeah, and I think I got it from the 12-year-old who
would
have gotten it
right.
at
we should have
the place that you always get sick from if you have kids is their
school.
Their school, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Right. So this is a junior high sickness. Because I've been kind of half sick all week too, and I've been really irritated about it.
And that's what I'm going to call anything that's not COVID from now on is a junior high sickness. It's kind of like, not quite real. Amateur hour, basically.
Well, and so I've gone through wanting to make masks that say "Let them all die." Rick told me that was a bad idea. So, and I knew it was a bad idea. But I still wanted to make them anyway. But I didn't make any masks that say that because that's mean. And you were talking about there's some kind of ethical dilemma about what was that? What was the ethical dilemma?
Well, I think you illustrated it, which by saying, let them die. I don't know if that's an ethical dilemma.
People are walking around the school, like even the co-op people are walking around. They're like, I've got my mouth wide open now, like breathing on the microphone.
Well,
I'm not wearing a mask. Fuck you, virus.
But let's be honest. Most of the people, if not, well, no, let's say most, an insane percentage, like 99% of the people in the hospital for COVID right now are
unvaccinated.
So
and somewhere over 90% of of McLean County hospital beds are full again. It's like 98% of the hospital beds are full. But I'm not getting a a vaccine. And then our kid, like this morning, like as we were driving, not ex-bag boy said, now he's bread boy.
That's great.
Bread boy said, what did he say? He said, horse, it's like horse...
dewormer.
Horse dewormer is for people. Vaccines are for sheep. I'm like, or
sarcastically.
It was something like that. I just started like laugh crying, and it's like horse. Something about untested. Untested vaccine. Yeah, horse dewormer is for people. Untested vaccines are for sheep.
Yeah, so I think it's a test of our
tested the horse dewormer on horses.
Your
not
humanity
people.
And whether or not. I mean, I understand the anger, and this was the thing, is listening to the ethicist, the medical ethicist saying, well, doctors should not be making moral decisions based on whether or not to treat someone, right?
Who makes the decision then? You get like a priest over there?
I think, yes.
All right,
society, culture, right, is that we're supposed to be. Oh,
that's me. Then I can make those masks. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you could say, societal pressure, but I think by taking the position of let them all die, what is it? What did you want your mask to say?
Something like that, yeah. Let them die.
Let them die.
Let them die. Like apostrophe EM. Let them die. That's a terrible thing. I hate myself.
But I think there are plenty of people who at least superficially agree with that idea. And it's becoming harder and harder to take a position of, well, regardless, even if they've made this terrible choice, we need to help them. And so what needs to happen is we need to spend the next 50 years putting, responsibility back into faith, religion, society, right? So if your religion allows you, your free market religion allows you to operate under the delusion that you can do anything you fucking want.
Free market religion.
Yeah, the free market religion that that's been sort of propagated and insinuated and indoctrinated and applied, built into our society, and now we're seeing the actual deadly results of that finally. It took a long time, and people have been saying from day one, that there's been, rich people and poor people, that this people die because of these choices, these freedoms or whatever. The market is amoral. It doesn't actually regulate people in any kind of, human way, right?
So it was it's
choices. It's basically like, well, if enough people die, they'll get a vaccine.
So and people are not. So that's why I say let them die. That'll help out the market for the vaccines. People will be like, more people are dying. I better go buy a vaccine.
So
and
to
then
me,
we'll all be rich.
That's the last sort of stand. It's breaking down that last stand against these ideas. So basically, when the progressive humanist people who care about collective well-being, right, are saying things like, well, the people who get sick should die, that's when they've been rewired by this counter narrative of every man for himself. Every person, is free to choose and then free to die based on what their choices. And there's nothing, we shouldn't take responsibility, or we shouldn't.
That's not why I'm saying let them die.
I think it is. I think it actually is. I think it's because we've gotten to the point where we've absolved the society as a whole, our government, our religious, beliefs. We've neglected those to the point where the things that we've put in place to help the world in a collective human way, they have been eliminated. And this is that last point where everyone, even who still believes in those ideas, says, oh, it's
just let them die.
Just let them die.
Okay. So, all right. So something else happened. Did you, you're like, oh, what happened?
So, just to not to put too fine a point on it, but would Jesus say, let them die? Right.
I'm not a Christian though.
Yeah. But it's a good.
Would Jesus say all right, Kim Jameson, vaccinated people in emergency situations could possibly be turned away because the unvaccinated people are in the ER. We should triage based on vaccination, excluding children, of course.
Triage. Yeah. So
your choice. But then, Rick would say, well, what about, your choice? You decide to live in Alabama instead of Illinois. And so, it's your choice to.
That's right. Or
to be in a place.
So 2 people come in, and one's the drunk driver and one's the person who got hit by the drunk driver. You treat the person who got hit by the drunk driver first, right? I mean, those are easy, in theory, choices to make, but at some point, asking medical professionals to make that choice will degrade into, well, I can't treat an African American, right? Which is what would happen in the past, right?
Yeah.
Once you start putting those type of restrictions on saving people's lives, I think
there's already a big restriction
scary
on it because whoever's richer gets saved too.
And so then the deeper question is well, if that's the case, why don't we have facilities to take care of this and deal with the overflow and everything like that? And I would argue that's again a symptom of this, this culture that we've built up where it's like, oh, well, medical care is this expensive optional thing that is regulated by financial considerations rather than health considerations.
So the other thing that we could talk about is just the fact that we don't want to we don't want to we don't want the government in charge of our bodies, like we don't want the government to tell us in Texas that we need to be wearing a mask.
That's right. That's
right.
So that's what
so
happened.
Like that's
I was like trying to think
the
something
white
big must have
elephant in the
happened
moon
since the
in
last
the room.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, let me get this straight now. In Texas and Florida, you can't force a woman against her right, or against her will, to wear a mask. Like if she doesn't want to wear a mask, like if a girl doesn't want to wear a mask in school, we should not have any jurisdiction over her body. It's her choice whether or not to wear a mask, right? And even if other people are sick, or let's say maybe her dad got her sick, with COVID, like let's say her dad got her sick, or like her uncle or something, and she doesn't want to wear a mask, she shouldn't have to, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want the government. We don't want the government and being wrapped up in our bodies and stuff.
And you're speaking from the perspective of
a little girl who's been raped.
All right, here we go. So to take it away from, to uncloud this, what you're trying to say is that why does someone have the right to choose whether or not to wear a mask, even though under the idea that it's their body and their choice, and you don't want the government to interfere, and yet there are regulations on what a woman does with a child she is carrying, or what she does when she is pregnant.
So the strict...
And so I'll tell you the difference, and I'll tell you the difference between the two sides. And I don't know how you're going to get the two sides to any type of compromise, is that you're just, even the way you set up this backwards talk that you were saying, you view a woman who is pregnant as you view the...
I view the baby that she's carrying
as part of her body.
Part of her body, I guess. I don't know if I do or not. That's why I'm saying let him die.
People who are against abortion view that as a separate entity, right?
Yeah.
That she's carrying, and so that they view that as a separate person with rights, and they view that as a person who exists. So, I mean, I think it's two absolutes. It's kind of like we're gonna be living in a world where either conception marks the point of independent life, right? And that means that a woman is not in full control of her body for 9 months, or the opposite is that life is not a separate entity until after that life is after they're born, right? Out of the woman's body. So
I mean, I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe either of those.
Right. And so that's the problem, is one is an absolute.
Yeah.
And the other is a gray area. And that's our whole world now, is that anyone who deals in gray areas is going to come into conflict with someone who deals with absolutes.
So I saw, a nice little meme that just said, if you want to prevent abortion, get a vasectomy. And it was like, I think I posted it on Facebook. I think it's a great, it's just like tells you exactly how to not have a woman get pregnant who wants an abortion, is you just don't ejaculate in her vagina. Like that's all you have to do, and then there will be no more abortions. And it was neat how this looked like a 50s little ad, how to prevent abortion, and it was all about, and it's just assuming that the person who wants to prevent abortion would not be somebody who any woman would want to ejaculate into her vagina anyway. So I thought that was cute. It provided some levity for me this week.
Yeah, but it underlines the problem is, so I guess the problem is time. So male responsibility, right? It's
Can you stop?
Difficult.
As a man, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
When you see it, you see a little girl, or you see a woman wearing spaghetti straps, walking in the not spaghetti strap mask, I mean spaghetti straps, shirt. does your penis get hard and then you have to ejaculate it somewhere, or you're going to get blue balls, right? Like, right? Is
Yeah,
there
no.
is there
I
any
mean,
way to stop the ejaculation from happening?
well, first off, I don't like the scenario, but yeah, no, I mean, obviously to me, men are not helpless. And so that's another problem is this idea. So it is kind of counter to, all other masculine narratives, right? Which is this narrative of helplessness, which basically, if there's a masculine helpless narrative, then that's obviously someone's doing a lot of mental gymnastics in order to justify or avoid responsibility, right? Because if you want to talk about stereotypes, most of the time the masculine stereotype is that, yeah, it's all about not being helpless. It's about being powerful and being able to control and, being able to dominate and being able to make the right decisions. But all of a sudden there's one thing, which is the one thing that's, you could say, is a core responsibility, which is, I don't know if it's a core responsibility, but it's regulating.
Don't ejaculate anywhere where you don't want to put a baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All
again,
you hear that, everybody?
I mean, the thing is joint responsibility. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to give men 100% of the responsibility either. It's just the problem is women are given 100% of the responsibility, and that's because they're the ones carrying babies to term, right?
And the thing that happened this week was just that there's like a problem where like a man could rape a woman, and then she goes to get an abortion, and then he can tell on her and get money for it. He can get $10,000 for telling her on her. So like there's incentive to rape right now. There's like a financial incentive to rape. Which is that the free market?
Well, I think those are the kind of problems that come about, right? Is when you try to regulate the world in this way, you start getting these strange conflicts, obscene conflicts, let's say, right? Where, yeah, money starts becoming involved, and financial gain becomes involved in situations where it should not, right? And so we're already in that. I mean, talking again about the medical stuff, right? And so hospitals, the healthcare industry in this country, and the hospital industry, let's call it, in this country, it is an industry, was already dealing with an issue of not having enough beds, and enough facilities to deal with, emergencies. And then we actually have a huge emergency nationwide. And then it becomes apparent that the system we've built up to provide health care in our society, in our country, is broken. And we're arguing over whether or not people should live or die, or who gets to live and die in our hospital system, our healthcare system. And we shouldn't be doing that, right? If we're a civilized country and a wealthy country and the best country in America, in the world, right?
We are the best country in America.
Yeah, we're the best country in America, for real. We shouldn't be having those problems. And so, yeah, just how money injects itself in these strange things. And so, yeah, the reality is that's an extreme scenario. I mean, it's good. It helps people understand why this is a bad precedent to set, right? It's basically why any type of financial reward for snitching, right, is bad. It's just now it's a really concrete situation where it's like you can actually commit what I would consider a crime, and I think most people would consider a crime, but other people rationalize, because again, they've built up this idea, so they're rationalizing rape and incest in order to preserve this idea that every life is sacred from conception, right? And they've taken that extreme position, and so that means that extreme things become acceptable, because if they're not, then that means you go back off into a gray area where it's like, oh no, we kind of have to decide. We have to make a decision about this in between. And it's like, and so yeah, the idea that someone can get a reward for, a financial reward for being a rapist, but you can argue that's been a characteristic of male-dominated societies from day one, right? Right.
Can the woman also be in on it though? Like, what happens to the woman if she got an abortion? Does she get put in jail? Does she get prosecuted, or does the man just get? Oh no, it's the people who performed the abortion get put in jail, right? Okay,
That's
so
true.
there isn't a way to split the $10,000 among everybody, right? Like set up like a kind of a fake abortion house, and then pretend that like then women can say they were pregnant, and then
Such a cockamamie, and that's what's his name. One of the Supreme Court justices was like, "This is the ultimate in bullshit." Like, if Roe versus Wade was going to die on a, it should die on a mountain, right? It shouldn't die on this, pile of shit, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, holy cow. So this is where it happens, and this is how everything, the floodgates open. Is this bullshit, right? It's kind of like, wow.
this was the doorway. This was
Yeah.
the foot in the door or whatever. All right, the slippery slope. So, and then I heard somebody on NPR, like making the comment that like, okay, well, you don't want this. Red states shouldn't want this because in a blue state, maybe you can just have another law that just says that if your neighbor sees that you have illegal guns, they can tell on you and get $10,000. Like, why don't we Pritzker should get on that, And
Well, again,
blue states wouldn't want that, right?
right.
Yeah.
But again, it's that same thing. Is you're basically doing and basically allowing yourself to become your enemy and to validate your enemy's methods of doing things by doing it yourself.
Yeah,
and so
of course,
they
that's
basically
not a
win
good
in the
thing.
long
Right,
run,
yeah,
right?
yes,
'Cause if you
yeah.
do
One
completely,
bad turn doesn't deserve another.
but it's hard to fight, when
Yeah.
you feel like you're losing control of the whole fabric of society, and we're on a screaming rocket ship to hell.
You know what? Okay. So I'll take the other bent as an old lady. Now, this is what I think is just like, wow. There are people in the world who actually believe this. They think it's a good idea that somebody can turn in somebody who's been raped, who went to get an abortion, and it's okay to get paid $10,000 to turn this person in, turn them into a criminal and stuff. And then yet, they also believe that nobody should force that poor girl to wear a mask, And I think the fact that there are people who have such I don't know, split brains, and we're the same way, we're like, liberals are the same way, we want women to be able to kill their children, abort their babies, but yet, we're against the death penalty and stuff. And just the fact that all of this can live in a single person's brain, like this dichotomy can live in a person's brain, I think is beautiful. I'm at the point where I'm just like, it takes a village, man.
I don't think it's a dichotomy. I think it's the difference between believing it's
Yeah.
one person or two,
Yeah.
right, that we're talking about. And
Yeah.
so if you say we're talking about two people and not and
I'm sorry, it's not your body once I ejaculate into it anymore. It's the property of the state. Okay. But at least pot is legal now, so that's good. I'm looking at the bright side of things. I don't smoke pot or anything like that, but I'm sure other people are happy about it, right? How come we haven't heard more about that? People just being really happy that they can smoke pot now. I guess it's because it's mostly teenagers who are doing it. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about something good. What have you been watching lately? Got a bunch of hearts from somebody. It's our kid.
I'm watching old people TV shows.
Like
The Martin Short, Steve Martin show. although it's about podcasting, so it's relevant, just like we are, because we're podcasting. It's relevant.
Somebody's happy about being able to smoke pot.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
good,
No,
Tina.
I think people are happy, and I think I mean, I'm frustrated that it didn't happen earlier, and a huge sector of our population
Is
who
in
also happened
jail.
to, it was in
Yeah.
jail and spent,
Yeah.
it basically
Yeah.
was a form of institutionalized racism, right? Our drug laws and the war on
You're always
drugs.
looking at the the
But it's good.
bad side of
It's
things.
good. We're getting out of that, and but unfortunately, there's not going to be. Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna happen again in some other in some other forum, like in healthcare, right, where it's already happening.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're watching Martin Short. Steve Martin Short.
Steve Martin Short.
Okay.
What is it? Only Murders in the Building. Old Men, and what's her name? Selena Gomez as the young person, and doing a true crime podcast in their apartment building that I'm assuming is modeled on the Dakota. It seems like that kind of place where you have this strange mix of sort of successful New Yorkers and New Yorkers who used to be successful and are clinging on and have been living in the same apartment for 40 years, and the Dakota where John Lennon lived, and then also where Rosemary's Baby takes place. So that's I'm sure those are reference points for them.
Tina's asking if you liked it.
I do like it. I'm enjoying it, and yeah, for something that's relatively old-fashioned funny. It's not. And Steve Martin, I definitely like Steve Martin, but I sometimes it's good. I like it because I know he's one of the writers.
Larry's asking if we're going to watch Malignant this weekend on HBO Max.
What is that? Malignant.
We don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. It sounds like something I don't want to watch, though. But it's not a horror. Is it a horror movie? Horror thing?
I'll just
What is it? I don't like those horror movies.
So I went on Twitch. For the first time. Apparently, I had been on Twitch before. It was probably for the PRF barbecue, which I probably really enjoyed. But I was drunk. No, I wasn't drunk. But so I apparently it is a horror movie. 9 Perfect Strangers. Also, some Tina's asking about.
I'm curious about that.
Oh, he's curious. Okay. So my friend Shantanu, or Santanu as he was known here.
In the Midwest.
Well, he's still in the Midwest. He's in Texas. That's the South.
Count.
Okay. All right. So Shantanu has been just start a Facebook group about like retro kung fu movies, which he's an expert in, right? And so this is like just the perfect, I don't know why it took him so long to figure this out, but he's been posting constantly and this, he's got all these thoughts about kung fu movies and stuff. And so he's posting them it's a couple of times a day. There's a post. And then on Tuesday night, he was streaming to it. He's like, I'm going to be streaming a kung fu movie. And I was like, I've always heard of the kids streaming things, maybe I shall check this out. And had to go on, I clicked on it. I clicked on Twitch. I remembered my password. And then I was watching an old, a kung fu movie, some obscure kung fu movie. And with all the rest of my friends, texting on the side, from all over the world, or all over the United States and stuff, old people that I used to practice kung fu with. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Other people should know about this Twitch thing. No, but so I remember, studying this in 2001 or whenever we were, starting to study human computer interaction back when it was computer human interaction, right? And just studying about how when you have a computer mediated experience, it's really nice to be able to chat with people back in 2001, right? At the same time, that's like a big deal. That's it adds a dimension to your computer experience. And yet it did. there it was. So it was really, just to be able to write like, F yeah after somebody just did the splits in the air, or like splits or something like that, and just know, so it's, that you're partaking in an event that other people are watching at the same time. It's interesting. I'm kind of still fascinated with user interfaces, even though I'm old. And so this was a very successful user interface for me. I was very, very happy about it. It like totally made my week. Okay. Tina Nixon says we just lost Sunny Chiba. Is that how you pronounce the name?
Sunny Chiba?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not, but that's
Everybody
how
does.
I've heard it pronounced by
I've heard it
Americans.
both ways. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess this is we one day removed, but it's our 9/11 anniversary episode. I'm trying to remember if we had an episode around then.
Well, we were
20
a podcast.
years ago. Yeah, we were already podcasting then. I should look it up.
Yeah. We could play like an excerpt.
We could if we had prepared ahead of time to even think of that, but we were just
we were so slammed at work.
happy to just even be able to
do a Radio Zero. Yeah, 'cause I was triple booked. Like right after this, I'm going to go do something else.
It is. I'm looking back, and it looks like nothing's changed in 20 years. So, let's see. Oh, looks like maybe we didn't do.
There
anything.
there was a time where we had like a brief hiatus of Radio Zero.
Okay, so the episode on September 12th, 2001 was called "The Fourth Turning, Part 1 and Part 2."
Wow. Wait, September 12th. So we did a Radio Zero episode the day after September 11th.
Yep.
So does September 11th kind of pale in comparison to this pandemic in your mind?
No, I feel like it's a marker. I don't think about it that often, but I do think about where I was, and it definitely sits in my mind.
Where were you? Oh, we were both asleep.
Yeah, I remember it was like listening to the clock radio waking me up.
Yes.
So I had my day job at the time, which got laid off of, at the end of the year because basically the economy tumbled.
So like how many people died in 9/11?
3,000 something.
And how many people have died of the COVID pandemic?
Definitely more. But it's different. But I don't know.
10,000 times more? How many thousands of people?
I'm just saying, there are moments in your life, right, that you remember and you think about and you look back on, and regardless of whether or not you want to, it's a memorable moment. And as you get older, you think back and go, oh, wow, that's where I was at that time, right? Because you remember it. Whereas if I just have if somebody says, oh, where were you 10 years ago? I guess I could go look at the Radio Zero archives and figure it out. And now, Facebook tells you where you were 10 years ago. So I guess it's becoming less and less
thing that you have to remember. Yeah, it is kind of weird.
Actually, those moments are going to become less and less.
Here's a memory from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
You were wearing the same pants.
But I just remember it was like, oh, wow, the clock radio going and NPR. So that's the thing is like, oh, still listening to NPR.
Yeah.
So it's like,
we kind of looked I think we looked at each other and we were like, and then we ran to turn on
not
the
at
TV
all.
set.
It was
No?
because they were talking about the first plane hitting, and it was like, oh, wow, that's a thing, right? And so that's just a news story, right? And then it was like, oh, a second plane hit the building, and then that's when it all changed, right? The first plane,
like, oh, no.
everybody, it was just a news story.
It was an accident.
It was an accident.
Plane
right?
flew into the
And
building.
the second one, it was just like, wow, that's amazing. I remember, jumping out of bed, going to the TV and calling my parents, right, and talking to my dad and saying, do you know what's going on? And he was like, no. I was like, oh, you should turn on the radio or the TV because, two planes have hit the World Trade Center, or it's just like something's going on. It's not just an accident, right? And so I think that was what was the most, not the most, but the thing I remember is how it switched in real time. So listening to the news as it developed in real time and how it changed from being one thing to the other, right? Being, oh, this is just another instance where, a plane has slammed into a building, which never happens, but it's just kind of like you're not really engaged. And then when the second one happens, it's like, oh, okay, it's not a mistake, it's not an accident, it's intentional, and that's rare that happens, I think, right? Moments like that.
All right, Ben Nemi is asking you, have you ever seen the 1980s Canadian psychological thriller Pin? He watched it on his friend's
No.
Psychotronic Twitch stream last weekend and
Oh,
can't stop
man.
thinking about it. Oh, he's Googling. He's got his fingers on the
No,
keyboard.
I'm gonna make a note.
He's making a note.
I
Yeah.
have not. But you said two things.
What?
1980s and Canadian. So that made me interested.
All right.
I will check that out. Very cool. Anything? Yeah, and then I didn't go to work for a while, and then I went into work. I remember. I didn't, and then they had TVs on at work, and then I felt bad that I didn't come into work. But and that was the worst. I think not the worst. Obviously, it's the people. But just I didn't feel like I should go into work, and then I finally did, and like everybody else was already at work. They'd heard about this happening.
Where were you working?
We
were at
the program,
programming place where you were a designer.
Designer, yeah. And then
I was working at a design place where I was a programmer. But actually, yeah, I remember thinking it was really interesting that you were designing somewhere as a programming place, and you were a graphic designer, even though your background is computer programming.
Yeah.
All right, so what else you got?
Anything else? Think it was worth it? Afghanistan. That's also, I think that happened, or maybe it was happening right when we did the last episode.
No, we haven't done. I feel like we haven't done an episode for a while. So
it's just been 2 weeks.
What's your recap for Afghanistan? Good idea, bad idea?
It's again
That damn
as
Biden.
you get older.
Yeah.
There's no joy, in like I told you so, or it's like, wow. I just feel like this keeps happening, and I guess that's part of being old. It's just like, you think about the 90s and the early 2000s, I think about Rodney King, right? And it's like, that didn't, that was a big moment, and it didn't change anything. And then we just go through much worse, reckonings now. And I feel like Afghanistan was just like, what, like, we had just worked ourselves through this whole Vietnam. I felt like, by the late 90s, right? We had gotten through it, and we had realized, okay, we're not going to punish the people who went to war. We're gonna say the people who made these decisions and the process that got us involved in Vietnam was faulty, right? And so we've learned. And then almost immediately after we get to that point as a country, we just went headfirst into making the same mistakes again. And so that frustrates me. But what did we learn? So what we learned is that, first off, you don't allow reporters to be and journalists to be documenting war, because that makes people upset, because they start seeing what it's actually like. You don't. What else don't you do? I'm trying to think of some other things that it's basically bad lessons were learned on how to continue to make these mistakes, but make them in a much more invisible or acceptable way, I guess. Oh yeah, don't have a draft, I guess. Have an all volunteer military, and then send them to do these things so that the rich kids, the college kids, don't, and their parents don't fight, say, oh, this is a bad idea, lose interest and lose faith in the mission, right? Because their children aren't dying. I don't know. It's frustrating. It's just I feel like it's an end point of a series of bad decisions. But I do remember saying at the time is like and I'm kind of conflating Iraq with Afghanistan, and the reality is that I mean that was where the whole plan was hatched. But of course, the responsibility of Saudi Arabia in that part of the plan, you could say, if you want to talk about an irrational way of why we went into Afghanistan after 9/11, then we should have also been a little more, not even a little more, just we should have even held Saudi Arabia and its people or its elite who helped raise a person who wanted to, terrorize our country, along with us. What we helped support him too. So it's just frustrating. So I don't feel good about it. Okay, but it's not because I don't feel good that we're leaving Afghanistan or we left Afghanistan and we left people behind. I just that idea of how much it felt like. So that was the thing, is my earliest recollection of world politics is the fall of Saigon. So I would have been 9 or 10 years old and seeing all that footage. And so that's kind of a bookend for me, where it's like, okay, this is what happens when you intervene in these situations, and then everything kind of falls apart. And then to see it happen almost in the same way, where it's just kind of like, oh, nope. And even explaining to my kid, this is kind of basically what happened in Vietnam. It's like we trained these people and then we handed it over to them and then they were gone. And everyone, was left wondering why we had spent all that time and blood doing this if things just kind of went back to the way they were, which they didn't. I mean, there are changes in Afghanistan. I think the Taliban is not going to be as capable of ruling the country. I mean, some of the genie is out of the bag with infrastructure and the internet and all those kind of things, right? It's a different country than it was 20 years ago. Whether or not that's good or bad, it's just different. So it's not going to be the same, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You've got like a bunch of people, saying stuff on the Poster Children Facebook page here. So it's, Larry says, if you remember, Bush couldn't get his hands on bin Laden, so he thought Saddam Hussein was good enough to please the public.
And he was right.
Yeah.
I think he was right.
All right. Kim Jameson says, never cut and dried. My family members were on the last helicopter leaving Saigon.
Yeah.
And then April Smith saying it's easy to get into a war, tough to get out of one.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Wow, Ben says there was he was a sophomore at a small college in Iowa and had a bomber threat called in at the same time for, I'm assuming,
on 9/11.
9/11, yeah. Crazy. And Andy is here. People in administration were waiting for the opportunity to invade Iraq.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is none of this is. I mean, that was what was frustrating in 2001, 2002, is that they weren't even talking about this before 9/11 in secret. They had documents, plans, websites, right? Yeah, websites. You could look. I can't even remember what it was. The Center for American. I can't even remember what it was. Is Paul Wolfowitz and all those people were talking about why we need to go back into Iraq and everything like that. And so it basically was a moment where it was like, oh, we can repurpose 9/11 into an excuse to deal, do what we want to do in Iraq, right? And that was, but that story is, it's so Afghanistan's a little more complicated, I think, than that. Afghanistan wound up being a stepping stone in a way to Iraq.
Okay. Moving on.
Bummer.
What's good? What's good this week?
What are you thankful for, Rick?
Yeah.
What are you thankful for, Rose?
Me?
Yeah.
that I'm still alive,
Yeah.
that I have my capoeira class. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful I have a job. I am thankful for my students. I love my students this year. I love them always. I'm thankful for food.
What is it?
food.
I'm aware of what I can control, and
Yeah,
I
that
don't.
was
What
like
is it?
what I'm aware, being aware of what you can't control. So I was actually talking to the 12-year-old about that because our kids are going to school, and there's a mandate here by our Nazi
Again,
governor. Which
you know,
I shouldn't say that because I love him. He's a mensch, this guy, right? But there's
always speaking in the voice of the monster.
there's a thankful for cooler weather, Tina. What was I just saying? Oh, there's a mask mandate. Everybody's got to wear masks inside the school and inside buildings, I believe, in Illinois, even though you can go walking around. There's still people walking around with their mouths showing, right? But they're supposed to wear masks in the school. And so our kids who are do-gooders, mostly, when they see, especially our 12-year-old, when he sees a kid not wearing a mask or the mask is hanging off of the face or something like that, and it upsets him. And just the same way it's been it was upsetting me all last year and stuff like that. And now I think I read somewhere, I probably read a meme, which is just what you were saying, that you can't, these are things you can't control anymore. You can't control, and that's where I came up with the let 'em die masks. But you can't. If you see a little girl sitting across from you at the table and she's refusing to wear her mask, and you raise your hand and you ask, you tell the teacher, and the teacher just is mad at you for telling on the little girl, and the little girl's not going to put the mask on because it's that type of little girl. She's just not going to do it. And so you need to protect yourself at that point. You need to just it's something you can't change at this point. And so let him die. Not let him die, but and then poor bread boy too, like is in a, this is terrible, like he took a alternative gym class, so he didn't have to be with all the jocks and stuff, right? And so he took like a weight training class where he figured he'd be left alone. So he's like in this tiny little room in the school, like with no ventilation, and go figure, nobody in the weight training class is wearing masks. Go figure. Imagine that. And including the gym teacher refusing to wear masks. And we've brought our kids up to believe in science and to, sort of follow rules that make sense. And so it upsets him. So I mean, I think I ended up calling and complaining to the school that the gym teachers, the PE teachers are not wearing masks. You're a PE teacher. Put the fucking mask on. What the fuck is the matter with you?
So I think the frustration is that you could treat every situation as you can't control anything. I think that's
right.
The problem is we've lost control. There's no feeling of control, right?
It's a fine line.
It is a kind of fine line, and it's being pushed constantly away from, we're losing more and more control.
And again, that's what makes life interesting now. At this point, that's what, to me, I'm just like, all right. So, I just, when Trump won and your mom was just like, she's
done. Yeah, she was done. She was like, if I was
whatever
40, or I was younger, I'd be more upset. But it's just kind of like, it is, and it's part of that perspective as you get older. But I want to make sure that I don't. And she's not passive.
No, not at all.
But she also is not.
She knows what she can control.
She worries like that I'm going to give myself a heart attack, I think, when I get upset about this stuff, right? She wants to make sure not to go in the opposite direction where it's like, I can't control this and the world's spinning out of hand and I'm going to have a heart attack because I can't deal with it.
How do these anti-vaccine, this is what Larry's asking, and especially the anti-maskers sleep at night knowing that their lack in caring is contributing to the death of thousands of people each week.
They don't view it that way. You don't. I mean, if you
The
don't,
virus isn't real.
well, it's just if you don't live your life in a world where you have partial responsibility for other people's lives and well-being, you feel like you are only responsible for yourself, and you don't believe that you have an impact. It sounds sad, but what it means is that it's just not an ability to view the world as organic, interactive, connected place.
I don't think it's that. They heard like their right-wing friend said that, called masks face diapers. And so they're like, I'm not going to wear a face diaper.
But it's also,
you know what? Don't wear pants then either. Go around with your dick hanging out.
So everybody lives their life. So even all of us who are like, vaxxing up and everything like that. But if you're living in a house with fucking, electricity, somebody else,
oh, here we go.
you're at an advantage, and somebody else in your society is dying and homeless, and it's because you're making more money, and you're comfortable, and we are not spreading the wealth. And so it's everybody has, at some point, in order to live, you have to say to yourself that you are not harming people, right? I think, or you have to, you have blinders on. Everybody has blinders on. It's just how obstructive are those blinders, how obscuring they are, right?
Yeah.
But it's what's scary is now we're getting to the point where it's like, oh, some people have some gigantic blinders on, and people are dying as a direct result of other people's ignorance of, the common good, right? So freedom.
Butt diapers keep grossness from. I know. I was just gonna say, like. It's like, people, I can't believe Biden's going to make, it's unconstitutional for him to make me take a vaccine. Have you had any other vaccines? Yes, you have. And your car, people, the example of car seats in cars, your car has car seats. Are we going to take those away now because it's unconstitutional?
The other side is maybe these people believe that no one does care, and every man for himself, and there's no reason to believe the institutions, and honestly, they might be more correct than us. I mean, in some ways, right?
Oh, my friend, are you going?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, I'm trying to explain it away as not just being mentally deficient, but if you've been shat on your whole life economically, right? Or you don't feel the world is, giving you any care, right? Why would you be involved and be invested in providing care in that world, right? And caring about other people.
Okay.
But again, that's the hope, right? So this is the hope, and this is the problem. It's like, oh, well, as long as we, keep trying to make the world a better place and be positive and help the people who are not helping themselves and not helping others and are
so
selfish.
Don't let them die.
Right? Yeah, don't let them die. The question
that could be the mask.
but
don't let them
is
die.
it at some point is that just you're being taken advantage of, right? And they're dragging you down. It's the don't someone who's drowning, you throw them a life preserver or a rope. You don't let them grab you around their neck,
and
right?
Pull
and
you
so
down.
that's basically our whole society now, is like how do we help these people without them pulling us down, right? How do we give them their freedom without them drowning us, right? And so we're in a screwy situation.
Both of us are coughing. I don't feel good. We both have COVID.
I should probably get a test. I mean, I was just assuming I had what the kid had, and he tested negative. So, but I should probably get a test now that I'm coughing today. We'll keep you updated
on the COVID situation. Oh, here's another. Wow, my goodness. Okay, boob update, and then we'll get off. I have. it's still my boob is still changing. Oh, I can say what I was talking to Jody about. Jody's my breast cancer sister, and she helps run the program, the breast cancer program. No, the creative technologies program. And we have this joke: what has 3 boobs and runs a program? Us, 3 of us.
Right.
But I was so happy about this. We were both sitting there. I was like, well, I wasn't going to get anything extra put in my boob afterwards. How you were joking. You're like, hey, doctor, is there anything that says that if she gets it reconstructed that it couldn't be bigger? You were joking about that. I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world. But both of us were like sitting there going, I wouldn't get, I don't care. And she's like, yeah, if I had a mastectomy, I wouldn't care. I'd just be flat. Who needs them? And I was like, yeah, and you can wear just a padded bra, if you wanted to have boobs. If you had like a shirt like the one you're wearing there, and you wanted to have boobs in it, you just put a bra on. She's like, yeah. And then I was like, you know what? The reason that we feel like we don't need this is because both our husbands, like we trust both our husbands still love us, even if we only have a half a boob on one side. And I thought that was a compliment to you.
Yeah, no, that's nice.
But when are you going to shave your beard? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know, when I lose enough weight so I no longer have a triple chin.
Really? You don't have a triple chin. Shave the beard. I love you just as much. I love you with quadruple chins.
Yeah.
But the beard, yeah, no, I don't know.
Well, maybe I'll get surgery to treat my chin.
Get the beard off?
I remember Angela Lansbury, who is still alive, talking about how she's never had any work done on her face, but she was like, but my neck.
Tell. Oh.
But my neck, definitely. She was just like being brutally honest about, I don't believe in plastic surgery, except for my neck. Yeah, my neck was a nightmare, so I had that done. I thought that was funny. It's just like, she has...
it's a fallacy.
Not like those other people who get work done, and it's like, but yeah, you have to get your neck done because that's...
You can wear your mask down on your chin. Andy, it's a fallacy that the Amazon women cut off their boobs so they could do archery better. I researched that because I was all excited about getting part of my boob cut off.
But that said, I would not... I think other women feel differently. And I don't know if it's necessarily just about their support network, right? It's about identity and, just general
absolutely.
body image.
Yeah,
if you want
boobs, then you should have them.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
What if you want 3 boobs?
Well, again, this has been my thought. No, but this is... we're going to have increasingly more and more complex problems with issues about people's bodies, right? We're already having those questions, right? It's like people up in arms about whether or not how you identify in terms of gender, right? It's like everybody's already, that's contentious. And it's basically, at some point it's going to have to be, I don't think you can solve this problem through legislation or theocracy, which is basically like, this is what a human looks like. No. This is what a baby is. Yeah. And this is when it starts. Like if as technology and science progresses, you're not going to be able to legislate and have, elected bodies deciding what's right and wrong in terms of what people do with their own bodies. And so that's to me where it's like mothers' rights or body rights, where it's just basically like people have to be able to decide. And that's really scary, because what's going to start happening is people are going to be able to make choices about their, not about terminating a pregnancy, but altering a pregnancy, right? Or creating, customizing a pregnancy. And all that stuff is super, super scary, right? But it's going to kind of, what does that mean? That means like if you believe in, body choice, right? My body, my choice. We're going to have to accept that people are going to start creating humans the way they want.
Yeah, and what's going to happen is all the old people are going to die. The old people are like freaked out about all this stuff. Will die after a while, and younger people will have more open minds because they'll be used to, they will have grown up with the thought, okay, little, like, just, you know, look at our 12-year-old and all of their friends, right? Our
Yeah.
12-year-old who identifies as a boy, who is male, just got both his ears pierced, and my mom was like, "What? You're not going to let him do that?" And I was like, "Let he wants that, you know, and he'll look adorable with it." So, you know, and I think it looks cool. So, you know, and is at a like a straight gay alliance meeting right now? A 12-year-old? Good parenting, Rick. Yeah. All right. I have to go
Yeah.
teach a class.
Okay, everybody.
Thanks for listening,
I'm
everyone.
going to try to get another guest going pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh,
You made it?
he's back.
Mr. Sweaty. Sorry. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Keep making old people.